Good morning, everybody. I've been asked to give a short introduction. So start with my name. My name is Sirimanto or Sriman. Um, in Sanskrit, Sriman is another name for the god Vishnu. And Ajahn Kevali allowed me to kind of modify my name into the Pali version, which is Sirimanto. It means bright thinker or fortunate thinker. I am 28 years old, and I've been a bhikkhu for, I think, around 14 days, so not too long. So the youngest Sangha member here. And I arrived at Aranya Sangharama 12 days ago. So it's been here not too long as well. Um, I feel kind of very good to be here. I've settled in quite well. It's nice to see that all monasteries within the same lineage, the Ajahn Chah tradition. I've been to two monasteries. I've lived in two monasteries in Thailand, and well, here as well. And they're kind of all really similar in their setup. You kind of know what to expect. You know the routines change. So the core what is what we call the guidelines and the routines that we follow every day for harmonious community living. And those change from monastery to monastery. So depending on where you are, depending on the need of the monastery, those can keep changing. But overall, the structure and the ability to practice, the environment, and the the people are largely, you can kind of know what to expect and kind of rely on it. So most of the routines are the same. We still go on Pindapat every morning, although there's slightly more cow dung on the Pindapat route than I'm used to. But in Thailand, it's sometimes on the Pindapat routes, it's broken gravel and sometimes even broken bottles. So I'll take the cow dung actually very much. So it's been really good coming here, and I'm happy that I got the opportunity. And thank you to the Sangha for allowing me to come. Um, the one struggle I've had is, I growing up, I lived mostly between South India, so Chennai, the Middle East, and Canada. So I grew up in variety of places, well, 3 or 4 places. And, a lot of people kind of just expect me to speak Hindi just by, kind of looking at me. And unfortunately, I inherited my language skills from my father, who, in my family at least, famously spent 3 years in Mumbai and still doesn't speak any Hindi. So I'm hoping I won't be that bad, but we're gonna see how it goes. I'm gonna try and practice some Hindi while I'm here. Um, yeah, I finished my high school in Oman, which is a country in the Middle East, close to Saudi Arabia and Dubai. There's a lot of Indian schools, like CBSE schools, in the Middle East because there's a lot of Indian people who move there for work and so on. So I finished my high school in CBSE, and then I moved to Canada for university. I studied science and math, and I also trained to become a teacher. Um, Here's where I first got interested in sort of spirituality and religion. Um, I was reading a lot of books. It was largely self-study, just by myself. I didn't kind of join a monastery or join any kind of particular tradition. I was just reading whatever books I thought were interesting. It included kind of Advaita Vedanta, some Bhakti schools, Buddhism, of course, both Mahayana and Theravada, and even kind of some sort of Christianity a little bit, um, and others like assorted books, whatever I came across. After I completed my teacher training, I moved to Sweden, where I spent 3 years teaching middle school students. That was a very, formative experience. I did have a lot of fun and I did learn a lot. And it was in Sweden that I kind of decided that I had to be a monk. And so now usually the standard question is always like, why? Like, whenever you tell a random person or, people that, yeah, I'm gonna go be a monk or I'm a monk, and people always look at you and they're like, okay, but why? And this is especially true of middle school students whom, I was teaching, and then I told them I wasn't going to be there next year. They just looked at me in kind of confusion. They're like, why? Especially, when you're 15, they study a bit of world religions in Sweden. And in it, they have like sections on Hinduism and Buddhism and so on. And they read somewhere in this textbook that, the Buddha famously ate only kind of 1 grain of rice a day. I mean, later on in the section, it explains how he used this to kind of find the middle path. But when you're 15 years old, you kind of focus on the kind of extreme details. So all they remember sometimes was, oh yeah, this monk, he ate only 1 grain of rice a day. So they used to ask me, are you going to eat only 1 grain of rice a day? And I just said, I hope not, but kind of depends on what's available. Um, when I left my parents to move to university, I told them, like, stereotypical, I suppose, good Indian child, that I was going to go be a doctor. I got to Canada, and then, plans changed. Um, but my parents and my family have always been very supportive, and I'm kind of appreciative of that. They kind of wanted just me to do whatever I felt like I needed to do. And I told them I was going to be a teacher, and they were okay. They were a bit, I suppose, like, they're like, oh, okay. But my mother is also a teacher, so they kind of took it in stride. But then when I told them I want, because, teacher is a normal profession, and then when I told them I wanted to be a monk, then they were, much less enthused, but still supportive. So, um, you know, the reason I became a monk, you could say there's no reason at all, and also many different reasons. It's kind of a difficult thing to kind of explain or put into words, especially in short time formats. Um, so I'm going to give you one of the reasons, and this is, again, it's true, but not, fully true. It's only a partial truth. Um, and this is, I think, true but partial is a good way, is a good philosophy to use, in general when you're considering um, spiritual and religious paradigms, but also especially true in this case. Um, when I was teaching, I kind of noticed that, this is Sweden. I was in an international school, so it was a relatively affluent community. And I noticed that, people always find things to complain about. And this is kind of, these students are like relatively, from, if you compare them to, like, the entire population, they're pretty well privileged. They have a lot of opportunities. They get lots of chances to do extracurricular activities. They have good education. And still, some of them are always disgruntled, unhappy, and like, oh, like, oh, we don't like this. And it's this kind of idea that, or phenomena where, your brain always reverts to kind of a baseline happiness level. So this is why kind of people who win the lottery are really happy for a month, and then they just go back to normal, because your brain kind of adjusts to what normal is, and then you just reach there, and then you don't change unless something else happens, in which you again become happy or sad, and then that's your new normal. And so I kind of wanted to help people, or I wanted to, my kind of goal in spirituality in general, I thought, was to improve people's normal mental state, or to increase the baseline mental state that people can have. And then I realized that in whatever I wanted to do, I first needed to improve my baseline mental state, which wasn't bad, but it wasn't great either, I suppose. And so that's one of the reasons, at least, or kind of a principal reason that I decided to become a monk. I did spend some time in a Hindu monastery um, in Berlin. So it was one of the branch monasteries, although that didn't work out too well for a variety of reasons. Again, many true but partial. One of the reasons being that we had to, as brahmacharis, we were cooking in that monastery, and I famously do not get along with the kitchen. Um, Cooking for myself is kind of fine if, instant ramen noodles for 6 years continuously is fine. I also kind of I lived alone for a long time, and I proudly say that I did not buy a single fresh vegetable in my entire time living alone. So that's kind of the level of um, interest and competence I have in the kitchen. So yeah, so for that and many other reasons, I decided to look at other monasteries, and the only other monastery I'd heard of was Wat Pah Nanachat. And I'd heard of this because an ex-monk from Nanachat was Swedish, and so he disrobed and moved to Sweden, where he kind of wrote a book that became really popular. And I happened to read that book, and yeah, I was kind of interested. I thought, okay, let's go give this a try. You know, a lot of the day-to-day routines seem quite similar to the other monastery. And so I came here, and yeah, I kind of really liked Nanachat. I like the community, I like the practice, I like the freedom that it gives you for kind of practice in general. And I really liked Ajahn Chah's approach to spirituality, which is kind of very open and broad-minded. And so yeah, I decided to stay. So I came to Nanachat in October 2024, and I spent some time as an agarika, postulant, or I suppose it's somebody who wears white clothes for 6 months, and then I became a novice, and then quite recently, I graduated to bhikkhu. Um, yeah, so that's a brief summary of what's been going on so far. Um, and yeah, I'm really glad to be here, to be spending my first vasa at Aranya Sangarama. So again, I wanted to just say that I really appreciate the resident sangha for letting me kind of stay here and welcoming me. And I also want to thank all the supporters. One thing that struck me when I came to Nanachat was the the level of care that people put in towards the place. The lay people and the resident sangha that were there just were really caring. And this doesn't mean kind of this doesn't have to be like anything big, but just kind of showing up to events, participating in many ways just shows that you're kind of invested in your development and the development of the community. And I found that to be really nice. And yeah, so again, thank you for, coming at 5:30 a.m. and participating. Um, and yeah, usually I kind of, whenever I'm in a place, I just like to look at that baseline mental state over a period of time. So day to day, there's lots of ups and downs. One day, it's rainy and you're sliding on Pindapath, and then, you're not feeling good. But then the next day, it's kind of really nice weather and you're outside and it's really beautiful in the monastery and you're feeling a bit uplifted. But over time, like over a month, I kind of like to see, okay, like how's my baseline mental state? Has it improved? Has it stayed the same? Is it good? Is it bad? And overwhelmingly, since coming to Wat Pah Nanachat, I found that my kind of mental state has either kind of is good always, and it's stayed the same or improved since I'm here. And so yeah, that's I I I really find a lot of value in staying at the monasteries, Ajahn Chah monasteries, and I would, I think the invitation is always open, of course, but yeah, I would really like to meet some of you if you're ever in the area and would like to come by the monastery. You're always welcome. Um, Sorry, I was rambling a bit. I don't know if I left any loose threads here and there, so I don't think we're set up for a question and answers. So if you have any questions, you're welcome to come to the monastery and ask. But I think that's it. Thank you for listening.
Sadhu, Sriman, thank you. And once again, welcome from all of us, including our host organization, the Aranya Vihar Trust. So just on behalf of everybody, it's wonderful for us to have new people joining in and new skills, new enthusiasm and so forth. आप में से कई लोग श्रीमन जी के साथ काफ़ी इंटरेक्ट करेंगे अगले कुछ हफ्तों में, क्योंकि वो परक्कमों की हेल्प कर रहे हैं जो 1 नवंबर का कठिन का कार्यक्रम है, समारोह है, उसकी एंकरिंग परक्कम और श्रीमन मिलकर कर रहे हैं। तो आप में से कई लोगों को काफ़ी मौके मिलेंगे इनसे इंटरेक्ट करने का, और ऑफ कोर्स यहाँ आएंगे तब तो वो मुलाकात होगी ही। ओके, सो वी कैन बी क्वाइट नाउ फॉर अबाउट 45 मिनट्स और 7 बजे फिर हम औपचारिक क्लोजिंग करेंगे।